Hello everyone. On this channel, I feel that information about what is happening in China is often not correctly conveyed to countries other than China, so I will be disseminating the information I have gathered in English. I'm getting information from multiple media, so I'd be happy if you could comment on the content of the video. Also, English is not my native language, so I use an AI speaker to create the voice to convey the information correctly. This time, I would like to talk about the infrastructure construction of Chinese companies. A dam and hydroelectric power station built by a Chinese company in Ecuador are now in danger of collapsing. Ecuadorian government engineers warn of threats to dams and hydroelectric plants built by Chinese firms. It is said that this is a very serious situation and that a catastrophe could happen tomorrow. Looking at past articles on this matter, it has long been said that dams built by Chinese companies in Ecuador have many cracks and are dangerous. If you build something like this, you can't help but worry about when it will collapse until an accident happens, and if it does, it could be catastrophic. The lesson here is that if someone under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party remains in a position of making important decisions, such a fate awaits them. There is one more point I would like to touch on. The fact that a dam built by a Chinese company is in this state raises the question of whether it is okay in other countries. China is the world's largest exporter of dams, and if Ecuador is dangerous, there could be many other dangerous places. In addition, there are problems with dams within China. Speaking of dams in China, the question of whether the Three Gorges Dam is okay comes up every year. If the Three Gorges Dam collapses, there are many big cities downstream. Shanghai is at the furthest downstream, but there are many gigantic cities in between, so there is a possibility that the whole of China will be greatly affected. Therefore, every year there is a topic about the dangers of the Three Gorges Dam. Before damage builds up at the dam, a large amount of water is released, creating flooding effects downstream. We have floods every year, but it's better than a dam breaking. Recently, I feel that I am somehow surpassing this method. However, considering that there are so many dams in China other than the Three Gorges Dam, and considering that Ecuador is in danger of collapsing, it would be strange if there were similar dams in China. Not. In some cases, it may actually collapse. I think so because there is a mysterious or hidden flood in China. I think everyone remembers the flood that submerged the subway, but the cause of the flood is still unclear. At least, I don't think that a simple heavy rain will cause a flood that will submerge the city in a short time. I can't believe the story that it was caused by heavy rain. I think there is a good chance that such factors, such as levee breaks and dam collapses, are behind it. However, even if the truth is true, if such information is leaked to foreign countries, there is a possibility that the question of whether the dams built by China are okay will become an uproar all over the world. I think the Chinese Communist Party may be hiding information about domestic infrastructure. Satellite imagery is now available, so if we take a closer look at the area around the flooded area soon after the disaster, we may be able to discover the cause. The Communist Party's announcement is that if anything happens, it's a natural disaster. I would appreciate it if people with specialized knowledge about disasters could verify it after the floods in China. Now that we have extra time, let's talk about China's population. It is a news that is attracting worldwide attention, but it is a story that the population of China has finally begun to decline. The Chinese government does not have an accurate count of the population. In the past, there was a one-child policy, so many people didn't say anything even if a child was born. I am not. For example, there have been cases of women being brought in through human trafficking and forced to have children, but this is not an exception, and it is very common in China. There are so many disappearance cases, and it means that we don't really know what happened to those who disappeared. There are many people who are buried in darkness from darkness, so even if you say how the population is, it is only a figure that is vaguely grasped. I think it's important to have some idea of what the population is like. And why is the fact that China's population has started to decline so much attention? The problem is not the total population, but that this has made China's aging population decisive. This is not just a population problem, but a story that has a great deal to do with the future of the Chinese economy. The declining birth rate and aging population have been talked about in Japan for a long time, so Japanese people are familiar with this problem. It gives you double the impact. The problem of the economy due to the declining birth rate and aging population is first about pensions for the elderly. The elderly have worked for a long time and will live on a pension after retirement, but that pension is money collected from the working generation. However, As the proportion of elderly people increases in the future, the number of working people will decrease, and there is a possibility that money will run out. China also has a pension system, so there is still the issue of pensions for the elderly. Concretely, there are ways to reduce the amount of pension benefits and to postpone the age at which you can receive them. This is an attempt to keep payments down. Another idea is to increase the collection amount or extend the payment period to make up for the shortfall. In practice, a combination of these is sometimes proposed. In this case, it is required to maintain the pension while maintaining the existing system. However, there are also proposals to introduce another system. This is to introduce a system in which the working generation will accumulate future pensions at their own expense, instead of taking the current pension from the working generation. It's an article from last year, but the mechanism of saving individual pension has been introduced. And this is an article from the beginning of this year, but it is said that 20 million people are already participating in this individual pension system. However, this number of participants includes those who have just opened an account. The number of people who have actually started saving has not reached 20 million, but roughly 6 million. So the number of people who have actually started saving money is just over 6 million. As a result, the total amount is 14.2 billion yuan. 14.2 billion yuan sounds like a lot of money, but it translates to about 2,000 yuan per person. There seems to be a limit for this system in China for 1 year, but 2,000 yuan seems to be a figure far lower than that limit. In other words, considering the population of China, the number of people who have opened accounts is very small, and the percentage of people who actually have savings is less than 1/3. Also, there are a few cases where the amount is accumulated up to the limit. China's policies and systems are very unstable. For example, when it comes to population, a long time ago there was a time when fines were imposed from the second child onwards due to the one-child policy, but now the direction has changed 180 degrees. Also, zero corona is the same. It used to be like welding a door and locking yourself in your house, but suddenly things have changed. In China, 20, 30, or even 40 years from now, you will receive your pension. All the while working, you'll be investing and entrusting your money to others. However, in China, it may not be possible to predict the situation 40 years from now. In some cases, the communist government itself may not even exist. In such an unstable situation, the number of participants is very small even if we say let's start individual pensions. In short, the Chinese themselves are aware of the instability of Chinese society. No matter how we change the system, we have to pool some of the income of those who are now working to pay the pension. Whether it's a pool for one's future pension or money to pay out to those who are receiving it now, the end result is a greater portion of the money they earn that they can't use right now. It means coming. As a result, young people have less disposable income. Even now, ordinary Chinese people are not very rich. If disposable income decreases, the consumption of young people will be sluggish. Some people may think that this will go to the elderly, but I think that the purchase of condominiums and private cars will decrease more and more. Furthermore, the problem is that even now there are many people who cannot get married or have children due to lack of money. It means that the burden on such people will be even heavier. The problem of declining birth rate and aging population will become more and more serious in the future. This is what has been said since before Corona. In other words, unless effective measures are taken, the Chinese economy will enter a phase of slowdown. Some people may be hoping that the Chinese economy will recover rapidly even after the coronavirus is over, but that is not the case. This is because the problem of declining birth rate and aging population existed even without corona. However, there are many people not only in China but also in other countries who believe that the Chinese economy will recover. Looking at the current Chinese stock market index, it seems to be recovering considerably, but I think this is very dangerous. Investors who believe that the Chinese economy will recover in the future may be unaware of the actual situation in China, and may buy at high prices, resulting in a large loss. As I have said before, we cannot expect China to grow as rapidly as it did in the past. Real estate has been the driving force behind China's domestic economy, but the declining population is a blow to the real estate industry. As the population declines, the balance between demand and supply of real estate deteriorates. This will also have a negative impact on the huge debt problem of the real estate sector, and the real estate industry is closely related not only to affiliated companies, but also to the financial industry, such as banks and investment trusts, so we cannot be optimistic. However, it should be noted that since China is in a corner, there is a possibility that propaganda and manipulation activities against foreign countries will be more active. There are serious moves in Japan to deepen relations with China by promoting transactions with China and creating mechanisms to flow funds to China. There are people who can be said to be agents of the Communist Party and people who are closely related to the Communist Party, and we must pay attention to these people. Otherwise, the entire human race may suffer as part of the Communist Party's ambitions and strategies. That's all for now. See you next time.